Yeah, but is that the correct process?
No,
as
I was going to ask the Mayor to comment.
Yeah, it is a correct process. If I'm dealing with the chair of the CCO on a regular basis, as I should, when I see something that goes against council policy, for example, council policy is before you spend the ratepayers' money, you work out that you've got a business case to justify doing it, then I would be remiss in my duty for not taking that up with the chair of the board. If we were simply to wait each time till we had a committee of the whole meeting, the event would have passed. We would have looked totally powerless in the case of something that the public thinks is inappropriate, and we won't be doing our job. So from time to time, I'm going to have to take that initiative as the Mayor of the Council to say, I don't think there's a business case for that, and I don't think that you can proceed and expend the money without being able to justify that expenditure. Now, you know, there's some fine lines involved in all of that, but it can't be the case that every time we think that a CCO has acted contrary to what we require of it as a council, I've got to bring it back to a council committee. It just can't work like that. That's not the real world.
And I'll just get Sue to comment on the institutional response that occurs in parallel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From a officer, from executive point of view, something like that, not taking anything away from the Mayor and his position, but at an operational level, is something like that we see, then clearly there would be pretty swift engagement between Stephen and the respective chief executive of any one of the CCOs, and very swift engagement from me to the CFO of that said any of those CCO organisations if it was a financial matter. And I'd also expect that Phil Wilson would be engaged at a point if there was a governance issue. So we would take it pretty quickly at an officer level as well, and allow the Mayor to take his position politically.
That's right. It's called one big happy family. Councillor Casey, did you have a question on 80 or
just to get rid
RFA?
of the words council family from, it's in this letter, but if it's anywhere, just strike it out. It's
Wash my mouth out.
call it what you like, council group, but council family is.
Amongst
the
us.
S Club 7 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that will be considered. Okay, we're moving on to RFA.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Councillor.
Councillor Hill, sorry. Councillor Hill.
Oh, no, just for RFA.
No, it was on RFA?
It's on RFA.
Okay, excellent. And
Four quick points. The key priorities for RFA should include continuing support for council and driving better value and transparency in the council-funded cultural heritage sector. It's important that RFA keeps the council well informed over its planning and priorities for major investments and develops business cases with council in this area, focusing on sustainability and also ensuring it actually develops a Māori responsiveness strategy, which is a carryover from last year's SOI.
Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The expectations for RFA, considering what they're in charge of, it's a bit boring or a bit, you know, this, if the Mayor is if you're rewriting this Mayor Goff or something, it just needs to include something about life, something about what we're giving the city. It's about the events and the diversity and the museum and the, I don't know, it just sort of says nothing about that we're expecting.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Yes.
You must have got tired when you got to this
It says good things about keeping them honest and keep, you know, all that kind of stuff around the finance, but it's really important to include what we expect from them on celebrating Auckland.
It could reinforce that. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And if our scribes can take that note of that, that should probably be the first bullet point.
You could probably steal some words from the 80 one as well, because I mean, you know, that's part of just trying to lift things.
Ran out of puff when you got to this one.
Yep. Excellent.
Who are you calling
Okay. And Councillor Watson, Mount Smart.
No.
Mount Smart and Western Springs.
It's not always Mount Smart, Councillor. No, I welcome these priorities, but I just wanted to once again check whether my interpretation of the words matches the Mayor's. So and this is a CCO which has a kind of record in terms of not really keeping the council well informed over planning in a number of instances. So what I'm reading into this is well informed to mean, as opposed to us sort of miraculously having telepathic powers and knowing to ask for something, that they are proactive. So in an instance like this morning where we hear that Western Springs development has gone from 12 million to 70 million, that they will be keeping us well informed with the plans and with the explanations as to why something for the last 2.5 years has been 12 is now 70. But that will be on them to say, well, this is an issue that we should be contacting the mayor and the councillors about. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think the wording is pretty clear-cut. Important that RFA keeps council well informed over planning and priorities for stadiums and other assets. And your example is probably a good one of that. All of the CCOs need to make sure that where there are significant developments occurring, councillors are kept informed about that. And this morning we were questioning whether we should have CCOs at more than one committee. I think there's a very good reason to have them at more than one committee. It gives them greater exposure to us, and they can then be put in a position where they have to explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, etc.
Councillor Casey?
I think the last time Dawn was in, I said this is what I'm about to say is nothing I haven't said to RFA themselves, but they have our facilities, they look after them for us, and I defy you to find where the council logo is if you go into any of these facilities. Like the zoo, try it. Go into the zoo, go into the art gallery, go into the Auckland Museum. Now, it's great they've got their own logos and they market themselves really well, but if you go into the YMCA at Mount Albert, you'll find they wear shirts that say YMCA on one side and Auckland Council with a Putakawa on the other side. Why can't we do that for all our facilities? And nobody's, I never get anything back. I don't understand why we don't say this is ratepayers' money, you be proud of it, you're funding this collection, you're funding this building, you're funding these staff, and it's ours, it's yours. So it doesn't do it, this letter doesn't do it for me, it doesn't say that, it's just got the same branding thing as everybody else, and they don't do it, and there's no intention to do it that I'm aware of.
Chair, can I just note that on the first page of the letter, it does make specific reference for them to reinforce our common identity through our organisational marketing and branding, and that's exactly the issue that you've raised, which we'd be wanting to pursue with them.
But that's the same as you've got in everybody's letter. I'm saying for
Yeah.
them
No,
it's
but
different. They've
that
got
is a generic
facilities,
issue.
large buildings.
If it helps, Councillor Casey, I've been listening closely to your passionate point made on a number of occasions and taken it up directly with them. I happen to agree. They are first and foremost a council organisation. We are funding a lot of that, and we should have our logo up on it. Otherwise, people will wonder what they are paying their rates for and what they're getting for it.
So in fairness, though, we must make sure we approach this as something for everyone. I mean, because if we're going to juxtapose two brands, it needs to be,
It should apply across the board.
You know, the Auckland Council plus Watercare, and you just needs to be some sort of common format,
Yep.
as much as we can do it. But maybe we just need to tighten up the general, just something about that a little bit more explicit in the general introduction to all of them.
Through the chair, we do still intend to bring this issue back to you through the Section 92 work. So I do hear you, Councillor. I'm getting the brand team to come and present at some stage to you about the brand identity guidelines, which is exactly how this issue needs to be addressed about co-branding. The identity guidelines lay this out really well. You need to endorse that, and then we'll make them apply it through Section 92.
Councillor Casey wins another one.
Not yet. Let's see the Putakawa in the art gallery. I'll see
Councillor
it
Walker.
Really just to endorse two previous speakers, and I would suggest in a number of instances there is no need for co-branding. There should be a single brand in the instance of RFA. We don't need RFA, we need Auckland. Simple.
Probably
Simple.
Point taken.
Multiple brands cost multiple money. When there's a change, there are multiple extended costs. The other endorsement I would have is for Councillor Watson. What we see in RFA is a circumstance where they dig a hole, they invest some money, they know full well that they are going to come back for another 40 or 50 million bucks, but by the time they've dug the hole, we've gone so far down it, we can't get out. And that is the concern I have with some of these RFAs, some of these CCOs, RFA in particular.
I dare say it'll come back as a bit of a group work on how to do this, because the Auckland Art Gallery clearly does have a logo. I mean, you wouldn't just have Auckland Council there. Gallery.
No, it's an art gallery. We know it's an art gallery. We
So
don't
anyway,
need another brand for it.
it's a work in progress. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, I just think, I've just been thinking about what Richard said, and I actually meant it when I said I thought you got a bit tired when you got to this one. It has 5 divisions, and I think we should reference those 5 divisions and look at potentially the objectives. What do we want? To encourage more people to attend them, to use them, I think we should be a little bit more specific over their 5 very varied divisions, which are, of course, the Art Gallery, Conventions, Auckland Live, Auckland Stadiums and Auckland Zoo.
Councillor Lee.
I think RFA overall does a very good job. I'll leave aside the stadium strategy, which there is problematic.
It was a disaster.
But there is a serious problem within RFA in terms of the governance and relationships within MOTAT. It is so fraught that I don't recommend mentioning it, but I think in key areas for RFA section, there should be something like an expectation of RFA to actively seek to build harmonious relationships within its constituent organisations, and the rest I would hope would be verbal from the Mayor. But it is a major problem. The situation is extremely unhappy. There are cost blowouts and also very bad human relationships, particularly between management and the volunteers, who are the backbone of the organisation. It needs to be sorted, but something discreet and diplomatic needs to be put into this letter, putting the onus on RFA, reminding them of their governance responsibilities to sort this matter, help sort it anyway.
I think most of us are aware of the challenges facing, MOTAT is facing as an entity. Well, there's no one else on RFA, so note that. We can now go to the very last one. Well done, guys. So, council investments, there shouldn't be too much debate here. Councillor Cracks, Councillor Lee. Oh, Ed first, sorry.
Just quickly, Mr Chair. Obviously, the focus in the first instance is to continue the work of maximising earnings growth for the investments, but 4 other areas, ensuring the ports are clear about Council's expectations regarding reclamation of land into the Waitemata, participate in any council-led work relating to the future of the ports, and investigate with the ports and any other relevant parties about how the adverse impacts of motor vehicles on the wharves can be reduced or eliminated, and work with the council on any future plans for the film studios.
Thank you. Councillor Quakes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Chairman. And Mr Mayor, I've got to say that I can't recall that your predecessor's letters of expectations created as much interest and as much excitement as these letters. So, well
Is that
done.
a good or a bad thing, Councillor Quacks?
Well done, Mr Mayor, on that. And I'm also very pleased to see the emphasis on transparency, accountability and better value. Having said that, and I applaud that, I am concerned about this bullet point number 3 in the last page of the letter of expectations about, and I think we need some clarification around that, because I am concerned that may be seen by the ports or as an instruction to remove the cars from the wharf and to get out of the car input or to get out of that business. I think there's a degree of snobbery associated with the used cars on the wharf, not wanting used cars on the wharf. Those used cars mean that hard-working New Zealanders can actually afford a car that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have, a better car than they wouldn't be able to have.